really about to show you guys these parts? What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another scooter video. My name is Chase Ross if you guys are new to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be showing all of the prototype Rapture parts that we've been working on over the years since 2017, and as you guys can see all around me right now are all the prototype parts. I'm really excited to show you guys a lot of these parts because most of them you guys have never seen before because, well, they're prototypes. We use them to test and mock up and get ready for the production model parts. So without any more hesitation, let's jump into the prototype parts. Let's go ahead and start out with the bars. As I have them all sprawled out on the table, we're going to start off with the earliest bar that we ever received back in 2018. This is the first prototype bar of what you guys know today as the Yang bar. This right here was the very first mock-up. As you guys can see, the logo on here isn't even engraved in it. It's actually just laser etched on. And this was really just the first model that we got ever, just to really test out the angles and test out how much hand space that we wanted to work with when it came to actually making our Yang bars. This bar was super light. As I'm sure you guys are aware, with Rapture, our whole goal is to make the parts super strong and super light. But this right here was the very first prototype bar that we ever got in. Now let's move on to the next bar. The next one right here is a T-bar. We were just kind of messing around again with top tube thicknesses to see what strength we could get out of it and how light we could get them. Not much to really say about the T-bar because, well, it is just a T-bar. But we're going to move on to the next bar. The next bar is the first model of our Yang bar. Very, very similar to our very first prototype bar that we got in. But this one had flattened tubes and it was a little lighter actually because we were able to shave off a little bit of weight by crunching these down and bring the gussets in just a little bit, which also optimized on hand space. So from here to here, you're going to get more hand space than a normal Y bar, which is something that I really love because I always loved riding T bars before ever riding Y bars. So being able to have a Y bar with the strength of you know, the gussets on there, but then having the hand space of like a T bar. Now moving on from here, we have the first prototype of our aero bar. So what makes this prototype different than the production model is the little down swoop right here. This one is a slightly bigger down swoop than what is on our aero bars. Our aero bars they start the down swoop about here to here as opposed to out here. We were just testing a couple different bends to see what we liked best and what our riders liked best, and what we have right now seem to be the best of both worlds between Y bar and T bar. It's actually the same exact bend as our Yang bars. These right here are production Yang bars. They're actually the Yang 2.0 titanium bars. But this right here, this down swoop, is the exact same as our aero bars. It's just something that's really cool because we took away the gussets. A lot of you guys really wanted the bars, but minus the gussets because you love that T-bar feel, but you wanted to have just a little bend in there to not make it a straight T-bar. But that right there is all of our titanium bars. Let's move on to the next prototype parts now. Up next, we've got some prototype wheels. Since 2017, we've had a couple different models of our wheels, but by far my favorite has to be our Yin Yang wheels. This was the first prototype we ever received of this wheel. We were testing out the Yin Yang logo to see how well it actually worked on the wheel. Now, the first time we saw this, we were like, man, that is the coolest looking wheel ever. I mean, just look at that thing spin. Yeah, these wheels right here have to be one of my favorite wheels, and even with all the models that we've had since 2018, this wheel right here still remains my favorite. Let's go ahead and move on to the next wheel now. After that, we got some blue splatter paint wheels. We were kind of testing a couple different colorways for splatter paints. We currently have the electric blue, the Rapture red, and frost white. This right here is one of the electric blue colorways that we were working with. And then coming in over here, this right here is a wheel that we were just kind of tossing around. We kind of just were testing around just to see what we could do as far as weight reduction in the wheels. And we put some holes in basically our hollow core wheels. There's quite a bit of holes on here and it really reduced quite a bit of weight. We never released these, but it was just something that we thought would be cool to kind of test and just see what kind of weight reduction we get out of the wheels. This is actually the first time that you guys have ever seen these. I've never shown these in any videos before. If you guys wanted to see something like this come out in the future, definitely let me know and comment down below in the comments and maybe we'll make these things happen. But anyways, that is our prototype wheels. Let's go ahead and move on to the next parts now. Up next, we've got a couple prototype clamps and a prototype fork. We're gonna go ahead and start off first with this prototype clamp. This was the very first Rapture clamp that we ever had. This one actually made it to market just for a limited time. This was a splatter paint electric blue edition Rapture clamp. It was a double bolt clamp that we only had available for, I'd say, about 6 months to a year before we sold out of them and then moved on to our next model clamp. But this clamp was super light. But one thing that it lacked was height. It was not very tall, so it did not give the clamp slit full coverage. So moving on to our next clamp, we've got the Trips clamp. Now this clamp gave your slit complete coverage. The slit coming up to about 1.5 inches high, this thing was surely going to cover it, and that's one thing that we really wanted to do when we released this clamp. We wanted to have a clamp that fully covered the slit and supported your bars. With this clamp right here, your bars, they weren't going to crack at this slit just because it added so much extra support above that slit. But that right there is the Trips clamp. Let's go and go on to the next one. The next one is a model of our balance clamp. As you guys know, we have the balance clamps that's still available on our website, but this one is a silver brawl edition. We never released this one just because we wanted to go with just self black first, because we love the black and white color scheme and black just seemed the most simple. Maybe this is something we'll release in the future. What do you guys think? Do you guys like colors? Do you want to see more colors in the future? Let us know and we might just make it. But then moving on to the Rapture fork. This again is just like the clamp. It's the same exact model of our balance fork that's on our website right now that you guys can go and purchase, but it's silver. Now this, I don't want to give too many details, but this actually might be coming out in the future. I can confirm that, but I'm not going to go ahead and talk about this one too long because it is currently available on our website and it's not really like a unseen prototype part. It is just an unseen color. But let's go ahead and move on to the next prototype part. Up next, we've got a couple pairs of prototype grips that range from different colors to different thicknesses and different compounds. Now I'm happy to say the Rapture grips that are available on our website today are all one of the best feeling grips that I've ever rode, because we went through so many prototype models testing to make sure we found the right compound, the right thickness, and just all around the best feeling like texture when it came to gripping onto your scooter. So the grips available on our website right now, I'm just really stoked on. We spent way too much time trying to figure out and dial in the exact perfect grip. So if you guys ever want to snag a grip, just know they've been rider tested and they're just something that we've spent a lot of time working on. But these are a couple of the grips that we used while we were working on prototype grips to dial in the exact everything that we wanted. These right here were one of the first model grips that we ever had. We were testing a couple of blues and greens and just really going with that swirl pattern to see what that was like. And the main thing with this one was just the compound. We wanted to test it and see what it was. This one we used a slightly thicker compound, so the grips were out of the box a little bit stiffer, but they quickly broke into a super soft compound that lasted quite a long time. This is actually a very similar compound to what we currently use on our Rapture grips. Up next, we worked with a slightly softer compound in a couple different colors just to make sure that we were able to keep the consistency with the compounds and the textures the same. And this one right here is kind of like yellow blue. We never released this colorway, but it is something that we have been tossing around, as well as quite a few other swirl grip colors that we might want to release in the future. But after that, we're working our way over to a pair of black and white Rapture grips that we were testing, which are actually now available on our website. Not the specific pair, but the colorway Oreo is available on our website. This right here, we were testing the thickness to see what grip felt the best as far as gripping onto your scooter. This one was slightly thicker than the rest of our grips, and it used a slightly different line pattern just for a different feel. But these grips nonetheless were something that I actually really did enjoy riding, but I personally prefer a thinner grip, so we ended up going with the thinner model grips that we were working on. But this right here was one of the prototype grips, and it's still something that we're tossing around, maybe going with a slightly thicker grip in the future, but we will definitely be using the current compound that we have right now because it is so perfect. But alright, there's the prototype grips. Let's go ahead and move on to the next parts now. I've saved the best for last because up next we're going to be talking about the prototype Rapture Decks. Now the Rapture deck has been a staple in our Rapture line for many years now, starting out in 2017. This right here was the very first prototype deck that I ever rode. Now this deck was actually not much different than the production model deck that actually released, so that's really cool to know, because when I was testing this deck, I instantly fell in love with it. We had the head tube geometry just right, we had just the right amount of foot space, and the weight of the deck was perfect. It's very rare that the prototype deck ends up being almost identical to the production model part, but this right here was one instance where it just worked out perfectly, and it just came in line really well. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys a couple of the little tweaks that we made to these decks to dial them in to make sure that they were perfect for riding and gave the best rider experience. Now this deck specifically, since we were working with the geometry of the deck, we wanted to make sure that there was enough foot space. We ended up chopping the nose of the deck as close as we could possibly get it to the neck So our front wheel, the front axle right here, could be as close to the back axle as possible. That means when you guys are doing whips and kicklesses, this deck is able to whip around incredibly fast as if it was a smaller deck. Now the foot space on this deck feels like it's a 21-inch deck just because there's about 15 inches of foot space from neck to brake. That's something that I really want to incorporate because I want to be able to have a small deck but still be able to comfortably fit bigger feet on this deck. So that's something that's just really cool, and definitely really excited with how that worked out. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next deck now. Now moving on to the next deck, this deck is almost identical to the very first prototype deck, just with a couple little things different. For starters, we did something different with the breakdown here. We had a little cutout that allowed you to take the brake out without taking your back wheel off. We ended up abandoning that idea because I wanted to have that metal come all the way back there. Now this right here was the very first deck that we ever tested with deck holes. These deck holes, if you guys can see right here, if the light hits it just right, the deck holes are a lot smaller than the deck holes that we run today on all of our decks. We were testing right now to see how much material we could take out of the top part of the deck without affecting strength. We've come to realize that we can actually remove a lot more of the metal than you would think. But that right there is the second Rapture prototype deck. Let's go move on to the next one. This Rapture deck right here is one that I really wanted to see come to market, but it just did not happen because it just took way too much time to do the split 50 black and white colorway. But man, this is just something that I still dream about and I want to have happen. If we can ever find an affordable, economical way to have it happen, you can bet your bottom that I'm going to be doing it. But man, just take a quick look at that deck real quick. It's so cool. It's just such a sweet deck, especially if you had clear grip tape on top or something. You would just really see it, and it's such a cool thing because when it whips, it's like boom, boom, and then on camera angles, when you're riding this way, it looks like a black deck, and then when you're riding that way, it looks like a white deck. It's just something that's really cool, and it goes perfectly along with our black and white yin-yang color scheme. But let's go ahead and move on to the next deck now. This one over here is the big boy. Well, actually, this one's the big boy, but we'll get into that one in a second. This right here is the first prototype of our Rapture Street deck, better known as the Duo deck. On the bottom down here, you can see the laser etching is a little bit different. It's more just like our normal Rapture decks where the logo's on it and just etched on it. But this right here was the very first prototype deck that we ever got in, testing 5.5 by 22 inches long. It was a nice in-between deck between not too big and big enough to still grind those rails, but we wanted to make sure the deck could still be used as a park deck, so that's why we went with 5.5 by 22. Now moving on to this next prototype deck. Up next, we've got another street style deck. This is just like our Duo deck again, but this one is 6 wide by 23 inches long. We were prototyping this deck when we were trying to test out a couple different sizes for the Duo deck before we settled on the 5.5 by 22 inch long. But this is still something that we're tossing around, maybe coming out with a 6 wide in the future. I'm not going to give too many details on this deck as we're not for certain what might happen in the future, but I just wanted to show it here today for you guys to see some of the prototype parts that we've worked on, or at least have had in the past. But that right there is all of our prototype Rapture decks. I have one last special thing that I want to show you guys before we wrap this video up. Let me grab it real quick. This right here is the Rapture Notebook. A lot of the ideas before they're ever brought into production or let alone into prototyping stages are drawn here just as concepts, just to get something on paper before we actually, start trying to come up with something new. But I just wanted to show you guys a couple of the drawings, go down memory lane, and just see what's in here. It's been a while since I've opened this book. For starters, we've got a Rapture logo. This was one of the first Rapture logos I actually ever drew. This was back on January 8th, 2018. If I can find the very first Rapture logo that I ever designed and made, I'm gonna put it in right now. And then moving on, we've got, this is cool. This was the first Rapture deck that I ever drew back in 2017. This is crazy. That's that's like 5 years ago. That's crazy to think about right now. But this was the Rapture deck that you guys have known and loved right here. But then moving on, what else we got in here? Oh, okay, that's actually a design that we're currently working on. I'm not gonna show this too long because this might be coming out in the future. I'm not gonna even really talk about that one. But, oh, this one's a cool one. This right here was my signature wheels. I drew the heartbeat logo in a circle pattern and was trying to find a way to incorporate my name around the pattern, as you guys can see in this one right here. I was trying to figure out the right way and how many names to put in there so it would be like even. Up next, we've got just a simple drawing of a Rapture wheel, 110 millimeters, just something I was drawing in my room, just kind of get something down on paper. Oh, this is a cool one. This one is the first drawing, the first mock-up I ever drew of the Yang bars. I always wanted the curved gussets, and right here, definitely you can tell that we've refined it since I've drawn this drawing. I wish I had a date on here, but I'm gonna guess this was right around the same time that I drew the Rapture deck. And then drawing another drawing right here. This was January 8th, 2018. Just another idea of a bar design. Here it is. I knew I had a refined drawing of the Yang 2.0 bars. This is actually really close to what's available today, the Yang 2.0 bars with the curved gussets. I'm really excited how close we were able to make this to my actual drawing. This is cool. We're getting back into the deck designs now, just kind of drawing some mock-ups of the decks. And some more head tube designs, just kind of working on some random things. I'm excited. There's some new parts that were in the works right now that I really want to show you guys, but I can't show you guys yet. But let's go ahead and stop that right there and not bore you guys too much more with all my hand drawings. Alright, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you guys enjoyed going down memory lane with me as I explored all of the prototype Rapture parts that we've had since 2017 to 2022. It just blows my mind that it's already been 5 years since we started Rapture Pro Scooters. That's awesome, and what a journey it's been. You guys have been following me on my YouTube channel for quite a while now, and it's just cool to show you guys the progression from the start to where we are currently. Let's not stop it. Let's keep going. 2022 is going to be a great year, and I appreciate all of you guys who have been supporting me for so long, and all of you new supporters that have just recently started following me and Rapture Pro Scooters. But that's going to do it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys did, make sure to give me a big old thumbs up and smash that subscribe button. But I'll catch you guys in the next one. Later.